Warning, incoming hostiles.
Welcome to Ware Gaming Weekly. Hello and welcome to Ware Gaming Weekly for the week of July 1st, 2019. My name is Nick, and across the world from me in Kentucky is my brother Josh. Say hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
For your information, Ware Gaming Weekly posts every Wednesday on YouTube.com and on podcast services. I said every Wednesday. I really just mean every week.
At some point during the week, we'll get it up.
You can find more about us at waregaming.com, and in the coming weeks, we will be streaming games again on twitch.tv/waregaming_. And if you want to be a part of the show, you can write into weekly@waregaming.com. And when you can tweet to us at waregaming_. Before we get started, let's just check in with each other. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well. We're new environments.
I have new environments.
You have new environments. I have a lot more room at the table that no one can see right now.
Yeah, I was going to make a point to say, so obviously in the past, we do video and audio recordings for the podcast, but we've been having some trouble figuring out how to do the Skype thing, and we almost figured it out, but then there was a delay, and we've been wasting so much time on it. We're just like, screw it. We're just going to do it. So this will be audio. Hopefully, maybe the next one will be audio and visual, but we'll just see. And this will be simpler to edit anyway. It is currently 1 o'clock Pacific time.
It is 4 o'clock Eastern time.
And I am right now in a little cute apartment in Glendale, California, with my friend Kat, who let me stay with her. And then next week, I'm actually moving to a new place next week. So I'll be kind of bouncing around. It's been kind of interesting being here. I've been just kind of relaxing for the most part. I haven't played any video games. I've been watching a lot of TV. Got to go see the new Spider-Man movie on the Sony Pictures Entertainment lot, which was awesome.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I mean, because that movie doesn't even come out until the second.
Yeah, I know. It was a private...
Second or third.
Mm-hmm. It was a private screening, and it was a lot of families and friends of friends who've worked on the show. Not a whole lot of bigwigs. There's none of the actors and stuff were there, but it was still really cool to see. I was in a room that they do the theater that they recorded or they showed the movie in. They also use for sound recording for features, and they told us that the guy who was kind of our chaperone, he told us that just a few days before we got there, Quentin Tarantino was in there recording some audio for his latest movie that's about to come out. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's definitely different than Kentucky. It's sunny most days. The LA smog is real, but it's not like I didn't really quite know what I expected. I thought, South Park, this big gray fog just falling everywhere, and sometimes it's like that. Usually it's not so dark. It's just kind of, it's there, but it's like currently like 85 degrees and hot in here. So
it has been nasty over here in Kentucky.
Like hot or rainy or
hot and humid and gross.
So, everyone I've hung out with has been really sweet, really nice, and so it's been a pretty gentle move. The road trip was smooth for the most part. But why don't we go ahead and get in to the who, what, and where? We since we've taken a few weeks off, we have the latest stuff you can find on YouTube and on podcast services right now is our recaps on what happened on E3. But we haven't really been keeping up with it to see like the fallout or the post-mortem of E3 and what everyone's saying about it. So We're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're really just going to try to keep current. With this first,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and with the last after E3, people have pretty much quieted down as far as big announcements. I assume as we move into July, more things will come up. I'm sure we'll get a state of play. I think we'll get a state of play before the end of July.
Yeah, that
for something.
Well, I mean, we'll extrapolate some of this information as we go because there is a little bit about E3 coming up on the docket. So, but first, we wanted to discuss some businessy things. Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony contest Trump administration trade tariffs. This comes from John Ryan at IGN. Earlier last week, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft all petitioned the U.S. government to reconsider their stance on tariffs placed on goods imported from China to the U.S. The trio of video game and console developers issued a joint statement responding to the U.S. Trade Representative's request for public comments regarding the implementation of said tariffs, saying, quote, "We respectfully request that the administration remove HTSUS subheading 9404.50.00 covering video game consoles from the final list of tariffs and thus refrain from applying tariffs on these products. The tariff is being proposed by the Trump administration as part of the wider economic standoff between the United States and China and would include a 25% increase on video game consoles, controllers, arcade machines, and even board games. The trio of console manufacturers explain in their letter that while we appreciate the administration's efforts to protect U.S. intellectual property and preserve U.S. high-tech leadership, the disproportionate harm caused by these tariffs to U.S. consumers and businesses will undermine, not advance, these goals. The companies claimed that the increased tariffs would not only mean higher costs for their audiences, but that the increase could potentially affect not just the console manufacturers themselves, but the 65,000 odd game developers in the United States. Reduced video game console sales unquestionably will lead to reduced sales of games, which is highly likely to have a deleterious, new word, effect on small and medium-sized businesses that make these games and on the workers whom they employ. Of course, the big question is what sort of effect these tariffs may have on U.S. consumers. The letter claims that a price increase of 25% will likely put a new video game console out of reach for many American families who we expect to be in the market for a console this holiday season. For those purchases that do go forward despite tariffs, consumers would pay $840 million more than they otherwise would have. Even after accounting for new tariff revenue, the result is a net $350 million loss for the U.S. economy for each year that the tariff remains in effect, with the burden carried by U.S. consumers. So that was a lot of words about some things that I don't understand, but when they name money or when they list dollar amounts, that's what speaks to me the most. What is your takeaway from this, from the tariffs, from the whole thing?
Well, the tariffs are a big deal. China is known for making knockoffs of various products across the industries. Knockoff like name brand things to be sold within their country and elsewhere, and so this tariff is and kind of in response to that and cracking down on how China does business.
Right.
And this specifically, we heard a little while ago that this could be a problem. I think we even talked about it.
I believe we did. Yeah.
Will disproportionately affect game consoles and the gaming industry because all the consoles are made in China, and presumably in the next year and a half, two of the big three are going to have new consoles, and it's possible Nintendo will have a new SKU for their Switch. So it makes sense that they would not want that to happen, and if like they're saying, if they have to increase the price because they got to pay 25% more taxes, then they're going to have to increase the price to consumers, and that'll mean less consumers are going to be buying these products.
Right. I do like, there's a quote at the top that says, "While we appreciate the administration's efforts to protect U.S. IP and preserve U.S. high-tech leadership," and then it goes on to say, so it's like they acknowledge the importance of what this is trying to do. But there's just a lot of consequences. And I believe I read somewhere, it may not have been recently, but I think it was Nintendo that said that they might be shutting down their manufacturing companies in China and moving them to maybe like South Korea or somewhere like that, so they can get out of this.
Nintendo, I saw a report just a couple of weeks ago, that they had moved production of it also came around the rumors of the next Switch consoles.
Yeah.
That the production of those consoles have already been moved from China to another area in Southeast Asia, so like the Philippines or something.
Yeah.
Thailand. So they're already making moves, and I'm sure if this doesn't change, that Sony and Microsoft will make those moves as well.
And
but moving those things is not easy. Moving whole warehouses,
right, and plans and also jobs and stuff like that.
Right.
What I'm kind of curious about, or maybe concerned about, is that I'm not sure that this particular market matters enough to the administration and to the people who make those decisions to actually make a change about it. Now, it's not the only market that's going to be affected by this. I think everything that we pay for in certain respects will have this issue. But this obviously hits home for us as regular console consumers. And then if you think about how much the consoles are already going to be, in the $400-$500 range, and then how much those taxes are going to be on top of that, that's just going to make it, unreasonable.
Yeah.
And sure, they're really good at saying, oh well, this is really going to affect the consumers, which it will, but it's also like they don't want to have to spend this money either.
Right. I mean, they typically take a loss on new consoles anyway, and the way they're describing these new consoles, they sound very expensive, and there's no way they're going to sell a $600 console, even if it's actually, presumably somewhat worth the $600.
Right.
So they're already going to be taking a cut, and if they have, there's going to be a limit to how much cut they can take before it's not worth it.
Right.
So we will see a $550 price point or $575 price point with these tariffs, and that'll just knock off anybody trying to upgrade.
Yeah. Do you think, based off what I was just kind of saying, do you think there's any chance that this is going to change?
I think there's a chance. I think the U.S. and China will probably come to some sort of agreement before really this has a chance to cause too many problems.
Right. Yeah, I hope it does. This goes into a territory that, again, I'm not super familiar with, so it's hard to say what the overall benefits of this action will do. I know it's trying to threaten China to, change some of their business policies, but how much is that really gonna, is something like this is what he's doing gonna be the catalyst for their change, or if they're just gonna be like, okay. Sucks.
Yeah, I honestly, to go into the more less video game and more political side of it, I think this will have too big of an effect on the economy in general, because of just how much we do business with China, that it'll start hurting the economy, and that Trump will probably have to backpedal a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to tank the economy and going into an election year.
Right. Exactly.
So,
but there's that something to keep your eyes on as we head into a new console generation, and see. It'd be if it doesn't change, I'm really interested / kind of worried to see how much it really tanks. I mean, the people who are going to buy it, kind of like us, if we have the money, are probably going to get it regardless. But
yeah.
But
and I can envision a situation where they actually do give the video game manufacturers a pass here.
Yeah. So we'll see. But more collaboration with PlayStation and Xbox, not really. But go ahead.
This is from GameSpot. Eddie McCook.
I keep saying McCook.
E3 is better with Sony and PlayStation there. Xbox's Phil Spencer says. Obviously, Sony didn't go to E3, and that was the big talking point. Apparently, Sony was trending on Twitter during E3, and they weren't even there. This was a hot topic of conversation, including from Phil Spencer. While it was not the only company to sit this year's out, Activision also sat out. There was no absence at E3 2019 more significant than that of Sony. With no PlayStation conference or show floor booth, it was a much different sort of show. Many would argue it was a worse one without them there. And among those saying as much is Xbox boss Phil Spencer, who says E3 is just not the same without Sony and Activision, and he wants them to return in the future. Appearing on the GameSpot sister site Giant Bomb's live stream at E3, Spencer spoke about the ongoing relevance of E3, and he suggested that the show's profile is hurt by Sony and Activision not being there. I wish Sony was here, Spencer said. E3 is not as good when they're not here. Spencer said about Sony and Activision dropping out of the big annual show. E3 remains relevant and important.
Relevant?
E3 remains relevant and important to the gaming world, Spencer said. It's a time in the year when the whole world is watching gaming, and it's very important today when the industry is coming under criticism and judgment. One recent threat, Spencer says, was the World Health Organization's designation of gaming disorder as a recognized disease. He also said E3 is an important time of year to show the world that gaming is not just kids in a basement. And without juggernauts like Sony and Activision, E3 could take a hit in terms of prominence. Spencer is on the board of directors with the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, that runs E3 every year. So he seemingly has a vested interest in seeing the show continue and flourish. Other board members include Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Grand Theft Auto parent company Take-Two, and Bethesda owner ZeniMax CEO Robert Altman. E3 2020 dates have already been confirmed, reaffirming that this year's show will not be the last. But where things go from there, as companies increasingly opt to host their own dedicated events, remains to be seen. And this just reiterates what Sony said as far as not coming to the show because it wanted to innovate, think differently, and experiment with new ways to delight gamers.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that was the big question before, like, is E3, and we talked about it much during E3 week, was it a smart decision for Sony to not be there? And I think with what you just said before reading the article about they were trending, it was like, they announced it early enough to where you could forget about it. And then when E3 came back up, it's like, how is this going to go without Sony? Who's taking the spot? Who's, the thing that we said early on is like, this is, Microsoft's time to shine. And then to hear him say, it just wasn't as good without Sony and Activision. I think they're right, the article, about saying, part of it might be because he's on the board of ESA and wants it to flourish. But I think that conversation that we always have, like, who won E3 and, like, what are we going to expect out of the big three? It was like, well, we have Microsoft there and Nintendo, but they're not really competitors. And, I mean, if anything, they're joining up more than anything else. So it definitely made E3 lax. But I will say this, like we said during the E3, that if Sony was there, we would probably be judging them as harshly as we judge Microsoft. So it's kind of like they did the best thing they could by not being there. And hopefully they are there next year. They said this year that they're trying something new. They want to take a different approach. But I suspect we'll be seeing them there again.
I agree. I mean, I think Phil Spencer's looking at it. I mean, like many of us look at it. Well, it was disappointing that Sony wasn't there because it just makes the show a little less
full,
a little less special. And when he's right about one thing, like E3 is the time when CBS, ABC, all the major news outlets are actually like having a
focusing on it. Yeah.
Where they're talking about, oh, here's what the gaming industry is doing. And most of the other times of the year, we're off in our own little corner.
Yeah.
So with Sony not there, it might look like the gaming industry is kind of on a lull, or it's kind of stagnating. And so from that perspective, having Sony there, and that would make everybody realize this is not just a frivolous market.
Right. We represent, and Sony being, who Sony is, it's the same thing as Microsoft. These are huge companies that are taking big portions of their time and their money to invest in this industry. So, right. So it's a point of professionalism.
But it's also important to point out that Microsoft wasn't at E3.
Yeah.
They were at their own location for the
I just
conference,
feel like that's,
and their showing.
It's not.
For us, it's not a big deal. But for the guys at the show, I was listening to the Podcast Beyond guys, and there was another, maybe it was GameSpot. They were talking about how the West Hall was like just empty because it's usually Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, and Microsoft is off doing its own thing, and Sony wasn't there. So it was just Nintendo and like Oculus and Geico Gaming or something.
Odd.
There's some kind of weird gaming booth. Yeah, it was like it was just very empty. And like for the apparently they were like shops or something selling stuff, which was weird, is what they were saying. So something that doesn't normally happen.
Yeah.
And so for people there covering the event, they would notice it being a lighter event.
Like, where's this? Where's that? Yeah. But oh, that was loud. Sorry. But the PlayStation was, like you said, still present in a way, and they kept uploading all the announcements on their own YouTube. So like they were watching, and they knew what was happening. And like what this says is like, what does that mean for right now? 2 out of the 4 games that have been being touted by PlayStation have finally been released, or have a release date. So we have Days Gone that just came out, and then Death Stranding this November. So
Last of Us 2.
Well, yeah. So right now the question marks are still Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. So they still have stuff to talk about, but at this point, like, they don't really need to show anything.
Yeah.
So I am still very interested to see what their year one lineup's going to be in 2021, or 2020, 2021. Like, what brand new IP, or at least, is it Horizon? Horizon came out, 2017? I think maybe by 2021, February 2021, we could get Horizon 2.
Yeah. I got a question for you. I was talking to David, one of David's friends, and we were talking about PS5, and he thinks that they'll re-release God of War for PS5. Like, you can get the PS5 like remastered version of God of War. And I said, I think it'll be a patch. I think it'll be just like a PS4 Pro patch for PS5.
That's kind of what I was thinking. The first thing that occurred to me was that, if they're as serious as backwards compatibility as they seem to be, and the PS4 games that you own will be playable on there. I mean, maybe there's going to be an option for PS5 owners who haven't purchased it yet, but it would still be I still think it'll be a PS4 copy that, like you said.
Yeah, they're not going to buy a PS5 version.
No, it's not going to be like The Last of Us, where they, because they're going to be so, in my mind, they're going to try to be so connected now between the console generations
Right.
that there's not going to be a need to buy a PS5 copy of God of War. I could be wrong.
Right.
I mean, the game looks pretty enough as it is. If you add a PS5 gloss over it, it's just only going to look better. But I don't imagine them building it from the ground up because how recent it came out, and yeah, I think the only times you're going to see a God of War, a PS5 remastered game, I don't even think that's going to happen anymore.
No.
Maybe no. I was gonna say maybe The Last of Us again, because even the PS4 copy of it kind of looks a little.
Of course, he brought up your argument when he's like, well, PS3 wasn't or PS4 wasn't backwards compatible with PS3, and you don't have PS3 games. They're all getting remastered. I was like, well, yeah, but that was a different architecture.
Yeah,
it was built, and he was like, well, yeah, we don't have.
Well, no, I mean it's fun.
It was.
I mean, I did have that argument, but after seeing the specs and stuff and the things that they're hoping for, every year, every time a new console comes out, it's like, it makes no sense for them not to do it. But I think there's a really valid argument of being, how often do you really play those games? Even if God of War comes out again, or regardless if it's re-released or gets a patch, if it's a patch, I'll probably boot it up just to see how pretty it is. But am I going to play that again? I don't know. Horizon, same thing. Last of Us, same thing. I'm ready to move forward.
Sure.
So.
All right. Well, it's just a little side tangent there.
Yeah. So, coming to the PS4 with the official release date is EA Access. This is from Oscar Diaz at GameSpot. EA Access was recently announced for PS4, ending its Xbox One exclusivity. Now, EA has finally confirmed the date its subscription service will come to Sony's flagship console, July 24th. EA Access costs $30 for a year or $5 per month. The primary benefit of being a subscriber is the unlimited access to an Xbox Game Pass style library of games known as the Vault for games such as Titanfall 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, and FIFA 18. Battlefield 5 also made its way to the EA Access Vault recently. These games are downloaded, not streamed, and can be played in their entirety, although they don't necessarily include all available DLC. Subscribers also get a 10% discount on all digital EA games, as well as their respective expansions and in-game purchases. Members can also take advantage of EA Access Play First trials, which typically give you 10 hours of early access to new EA titles prior to their official release. Sony.
So this, I was gonna say, this answers our question we had last time about EA Access. Is it just a demo service?
Right.
And it's not. They have the vault of games you can play, and new games you get the 10 hours of early access.
Exactly.
Demo.
Sony allowing EA Access on PS4 represents quite a change in stance. The company blocked EA from launching the service on PlayStation in 2014, saying it had evaluated the EA Access subscription offering and decided that it does not bring the kind of value PlayStation consumers have come to expect. The company has not explained its recent change of heart. A PC version of the service known as Origin Access is also available, although all three versions operate independently of each other. Elsewhere, the free PS Plus games for July 29th were announced recently. The PS4 games available at no extra cost for PlayStation Plus members next month will be PES 2019 and Horizon Chase Turbo. So that was kind of a
terrible. Regardless of the rest of the article, the PS Plus games are a soccer game
and a toy car racing
a weird
game.
Toy car racer. A terrible PS Plus offering.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably play Horizon.
One
Chase
of the worst
Turbo.
we've had in a while.
That's true. Though I don't know what was it, the Surge.
The Surge.
And
people were talking positively about.
Isn't it a horror game?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think so, which is why I haven't played it. But
Right.
I've heard positive things about it.
I'm excited that we finally have access to it. I don't have money for it, so I'm not going to participate. but I'm glad that it's there. At this point, it's just kind of like anything else. It's just give me a catch-all price for all of the services. Pay $120 a year.
I mean, you can see Sony probably changed its tune, one, because they don't have anything to offer on PS Plus, and two, EA Access has probably got more stuff on it now. Like it's probably a more well-rounded service than it was in 2014.
Right. And
that was 5 years ago. So
and they're really trying to catch up on those consumer-friendly services. Xbox has been doing it so well, and they've been so known for being like, that, doing this, allowing the cross-platform play and stuff like that. I think they're just trying to patch, and they're kind of doing it quietly. They're not making huge announcements like, hey guys, guess what? We're finally catching up. It's kind of like, because it's kind of like the Apple thing. This is a tangent, but it makes sense in my brain. The Apple thing saying, we're finally, we're doing the swipe keyboard now. And it's like, well, that's been a thing, but they made a big announcement of it. Like it's the first time they've ever heard of it. And so like Sony doing it, it's a press release. It's something important for people to know about, but they're not trying to pawn it off like it's the first time they've ever heard of it. So they're playing catch up in small ways so that I think when PS5 comes out, they can be like, guess what? You've been wanting it for 7 years. We're finally doing it. We're finally doing this. We're finally doing that.
right.
So even when they don't need to, but
Yeah.
all right.
All right. Google Stadia exclusives aim to be as much fun to watch as they are to play. This is by Matt Perslow at IGN. Google's vice president for Stadia, Phil Harrison, has elaborated on the kind of exclusive games players will see running on the upcoming video game streaming platform. Talking to IGN and other journalists at a roundtable event at Google's UK offices, Harrison said, quote, an innovation that we want to bring to bear is games that are as fun to watch as they are to play. That may be even introduce a new way. Games.
Yeah, that was poorly worded.
Yeah. Maybe he said it in a better way.
And maybe even introducing, yeah.
That may be even introduce. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, most of the games we play today are measured in button presses per second. Watching a YouTube video is button presses per minute, and maybe there's something in between, which is allowing the less engaged gamer to have as much fun being a part of a game, but maybe they have a slightly different viewpoint on the world. Maybe they have a more strategic view. Google have previously detailed how Stadia bridges the gap between playing and watching video games, and Harrison used Ghost Recon Breakpoint as an example to reiterate the company's plans. If you look at Ghost Recon Breakpoint, it has this amazing Stream Connect feature where you can see what your friends are seeing in the game superimposed inside the game. A gameception. Those are our first examples of innovations that will, over time, mean that streaming games will have these advantages that players will gravitate towards. Breakpoint is an example of Stadia's capabilities being fitted into an existing game built for traditional consoles, as well as Google's streaming platform. So it'll be interesting to see what a game wholly designed for Stadia could look like. Harrison emphasizes that Google is still interested in the idea of vast open-world games in the mold of Assassin's Creed, but seeing how something like that could be created with Stream Connect features as a baseline rather than an addition would be fascinating.
I agree. When we first watched the original, the release information about how different games on Stadia could be, I was initially immediately just thought about what doing quote unquote split screen without sacrificing fidelity or anything like that, like creating whole images and whole and all the power to support the images without having to split the power. So I'm trying to think of what we potentially think of Marvel's Avengers being. Like, how awesome, I mean, I have no idea if this is how it would be, but how awesome would it be, like, your a ground fighter, like Black Widow, and you're doing stuff like that, doing stuff on the ground, and then we're playing the same game like Destiny or whatever, and I'm up in the sky as Iron Man, seeing what you're doing on the ground, and like, and participating that way, which isn't something that has to be exclusive to a Stadia program, because you can sort of do that in games like Destiny, right, stuff right now, but I feel like there's, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is a whole lot of opportunity for people to think outside the box when they don't have to worry about the power to provide it.
Yeah.
And so, it's like what I said with, Star Wars. It's like, I'm excited for them to think about things that I wouldn't think about.
Yeah.
Like, because that's just not, I don't think outside the box in that way, but they do. Like, I didn't know what I needed until I saw it. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that will play out for Google, for their exclusive titles.
Yeah. So, cool.
Yeah. All right, and our last news story for the day. Cyberpunk 2077 should require 80 gigabytes on PS4 for 4K. 4K confirmed for Xbox One X by the author Virgil on GamePressure.com. Cyberpunk 2077 can be pre-ordered on PlayStation Store and Microsoft Store, which led us to learn that the PlayStation 4 version of the game will likely require at least 80 gigabytes of disk space available, 13 gigabytes more than the already bulky Days Gone. However, I did look this up. This is me. Red Dead Redemption 2 was 88 gigabytes. And also, if you hear those sirens, they're in LA. And the Xbox One version will attempt to take full advantage of this platform's unique capabilities. Owners of the, quote, most powerful console in the world should be able to run the game in 4K. It's not quite clear yet how Cyberpunk 2077 will utilize the extra power of PS4 Pro or how much space the Xbox One version will require. How good the game will look on Sony and Microsoft and Sony platforms remains an interesting question for the time being. The owners of these consoles shouldn't fret. However, the developers emphasized last year that ensuring optimization was something CD Projekt Red had been keeping in mind since the onset of the entire project. Another matter is that so far only the PC versions of the games were presented, and that the demo prepared for this year's E3 ran on a very powerful PC. Although Cyberpunk 2077 is still largely a mystery, we have witnessed in recent weeks a real flood of information regarding its production, including Keanu Reeves, the price and content of individual editions, details of morality and romance mechanics, and some details for the above-mentioned demo shown behind closed doors. Today, PS4 owners gained access to a free theme from the game, which is cool. I didn't know that. Cyberpunk 2077 is slated to release on April 16th, 2020. So, yeah.
Big game.
Big game. Not as big as Red Dead, but still pretty massive. Yeah. I think it also probably speaks to the component of the fact that it doesn't have multiplayer. That's probably what a big part of Red Dead's is.
Yeah. Fun fact.
So that's the who. Yeah, go ahead.
Keanu Reeves, he's not just a bit side part either. He's got the second most lines in the game.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
He's apparently been involved with it for over a year. I think that's it. That's all I know about that.
Yeah. So that's the who, what, and the where. Yeah. Did you want to talk about anything you've been playing?
I haven't been playing a whole lot like you. I did break down. There was a huge PlayStation PS Plus fire sale or something going on, the Days of Play, and I saw that they had the Spyro trilogy and the Crash trilogy like combined for sale. So like altogether they were like $40 or $35 or something. So
awesome.
I went on and got picked that up and played the first island of Crash Bandicoot, and it's just like you remember, or I remember it. It's very good, very fun. Other than that, I don't think I've gotten to play much else. I've watched Chuck. Started watching Chuck. That was what I did.
I just watched the pilot yesterday, so yeah,
it's good.
It's good. I'm interested to see how it goes. It's definitely a product of whatever year it came out of.
Oh,
But-
yeah, 2007. It's Monster of the Week kind of deal.
Was it 2007? The computer
Yeah.
looked like it was from 1995.
No, it was 2007, and now it might no, it was I think it was based around then too. But
What is going on? Something bad is happening around me somewhere.
take shelter, Nick.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think Zachary Levi's character would have been he does a very good job with it. I also think Zach Braff could have done that
Probably.
role.
What I think is interesting is that he does not look like Zachary
Levi.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's we're late to the party anyway. So
Yeah.
I watched, like I said, I watched the new Spider-Man movie and it was really good. And I watched Little Miss Sunshine, which is an old road trip movie. I'm writing a road trip movie right now, and so I was doing it for some research, and it was pretty good. Also watched another movie with Keanu Reeves in it called Always Be My Maybe, which
You watched that chick flick?
I did, and it was good. And Keanu Reeves was in it for maybe 20 minutes, and he played a giant dick. Not like actually, but he was in the movie. He was playing himself, and he was a giant dick, and which I thought was really amusing because he was like so passionate. Yeah, he was just like he was kind of like holistic and hippie. He was just kind of like you just gotta. Oh my god, something's going on, and I have no idea what it is. Anyway,
You might want to take your like a crime app or something.
yeah. Anyway, but that's it. We're gonna go through the out this week, and then we will be out of here this
right.
week. So coming out July 2nd, Apex Legends Season 2 comes to PS4, PC, and Xbox One. Also, Final Fantasy XIV Online Shadowbringers DLC comes to PC and PS4 on July 2nd. Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered Edition comes to Switch on July 2nd. Just Cause 4 Los Demonios DLC comes to PC, PS4, and Xbox One on July 3rd. Stranger Things 3 The Game comes to PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on July 4th.
Is there
Wonder
even,
Blade.
like 3 seasons of Stranger Things?
Yeah, I think it's about to come out.
Oh, okay.
Season 3. Wonder Blade comes to PC on July 4th. Attack on Titan 2 Final Battle comes to PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on July 5th. Sea of Solitude. Oh, that's finally coming out. PC, PS4, and Xbox One comes on July 5th. That was the game. I think it was a EA indie EA game. It looked kind of interesting. It looks, sad, and then They Are Billions comes to Xbox One on July 5th. And that's the show. So remember, Ware Gaming Weekly posts every week on youtube.com and on podcast services, and you can find out more about us at waregaming.com. You can tweet to the show at waregaming_. You can tweet at me at speak Nicklish.
And you can tweet to me at Jaws1015. And until next week, say goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye, Nick.